Hi, I'm Tracy Burgett. I'm the Director of Financial Planning at Platt Wealth Management. We're an independent fee-only firm doing investment management and financial planning in San Diego, California. Now we're going to talk about managing your debt, credit, and your budget. There are a couple approaches to paying off your debt. The first one we'll talk about is the Snowball Approach, and this one is favored by Dave Ramsey. This is where you make a list of your debts in both the amount that you owe and by interest rate. But the Snowball Approach focuses on paying off the smallest dollar amount first. You look at your budget and continue to make all of your minimum payments on the cards, but you take extra money and add it to the payment of your smallest debt first. When that debt is paid off, you take that payment and your extra money and continue making payments to the next smallest debt. The pro to this approach is the sense of accomplishment you feel when you pay off your debt, and that's easier to do if you pay the smallest one first. The success encourages you to stick with it. The con is that you may end up paying more interest over time because you're not focused on the interest rate of the debt, you're focused on the size of the debt. The second approach is the Avalanche Approach. Here, you're doing the same thing of making the list of your debts, but here you pay off the debt with the highest interest rate first. You take that extra money from your budget and put it toward the highest rate first. The pro of the Avalanche Approach is that you pay less interest over time because you're paying off the highest interest rates first. The con is that it may be harder to stick with it because the card with the highest interest rate may also be your biggest debt. Here's an example of how the debts may look comparing the Snowball Approach to the Avalanche Approach. The spreadsheet on the top shows all of the different cards with the balances and the rate that you're paying on the card. The Snowball Approach on the left, you can see the total interest is $10,600 compared to the Avalanche Approach on the right, where the total debt is $8,500. Now, the Avalanche Approach also is paid off earlier. Either approach is a good approach to paying off debt, so pick the one that you think will work the best for you. Now we'll talk about some other debt best practices. The most important thing is to always pay on time every time to establish a good payment history. Sometimes you can call the credit card companies to see if they'll lower your interest rate or increase your line of credit. They're also more likely to waive a late fee if you have shown that you have a history of paying on time. You can also call the credit card company to see if they'll lower your interest rate or increase your line of credit. They're more likely to waive a late fee if you have a history of paying on time. You can also look into better credit card offers and balance transfers to low or no interest rate cards. The better your credit score, the better the deals you will be offered. Look into personal or debt consolidation loans that could offer a lower overall payment, and be careful with debt scams. Now we'll talk about managing your credit. There are 3 main credit reporting agencies that keep track of all the things we just discussed, like your payment history and your different lines of credit. You're entitled to 1 free credit report each year from each of these agencies. If you get a report from one agency every 4 months, you can act as your own credit monitor for free. If you're going to get a house soon and are going to be applying for a mortgage, it may be to your advantage to get all 3 reports at the same time, though, and correct any deficiencies in the report. The website is www.freecreditreport.com. Be careful because there are a lot of copycat sites. You can also take an active role in managing your credit score. This chart shows the different segments that go into how your credit score is calculated. The largest one is on the bottom, the payment history, and this goes back to pay on time every time. 35% of your credit score comes from this because the credit reporting bureaus will look at whether you are 30, 60, or 90 days behind in your payments, and those delays can really ding your score. 30% comes from the amounts that you're owed. That looks at how much of your available credit are you using. If you've got a card with a $10,000 line of credit and you're using $9,000, that will hurt your credit score as well. The length of your credit history is also an important factor. So when you pay off a credit card, it's good to keep it open unless it has a high annual fee. Keeping the cards open will contribute to the length of your credit history and will also give you a higher line of credit available that will help your credit score in other ways. The last two, the type of credit used and the new credit, each contribute about 10%. One word of warning is on new credit. Again, if you're going to be applying for a mortgage, don't go around opening a lot of new credit cards because that can be a red flag to the credit reporting bureaus and hurt your credit score. Budgeting is one of the most important things that you can do to track your spending. Here's a simple example of the 50-30-20 rule, and it's an easy way to get started on budgeting. This budget only has 3 categories: needs, wants, and savings. Start with your after-tax income, that's your paycheck, and add back in anything that isn't taxes. 50% of that goes for your needs. That's anything that absolutely has to stay in your budget. Housing, utilities, transportation, at least the minimum payment on your debts, and healthcare costs. 30% goes for wants. Those are the expenses that you choose to spend your money on, but that you don't need to live your life. Dining out, shopping, vacations. 20% goes to savings and debt repayment. You can put more money towards the debt repayments, but the minimum payments are part of your needs. On our website, you can find an Excel spreadsheet that you can download and customize your own expense categories and use for more detailed tracking. This can help you in retirement to know where your money's going.